Can you see?
Yes.
Okay. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. As you remember, after talking about the cognitive aspect of process of decision making, we reached the part which is about our inclinations and desires and motivation. We have, suppose, conceived something, we have talked about tasawwur, and also we talked about tasdeeq, about affirmation of, for example, being beneficial, being good for us, etc. But still there are other aspects. I started first with a distinction that some moral philosophers have made between what they call theoretical reasoning and practical reasoning. Al-istidlal al-nadhari or al-istidlal al-amali. So they said these are two different things. Theoretical reasoning relates to our beliefs. What do you believe to be good, to be bad, etc., and all the theoretical discussion. Practical reasoning is about making decision, and it's related to our desire, to our intention. Gilbert Harman, who is one of the people that I have studied in my thesis, and he has theories about ethics and about ethical relativism. So he says, when we say someone has a reason for certain action, it means that he has practical reasons. So he has gone through a process of practical reasoning which led him to action. It seems that he wants to disassociate one's beliefs from decision making. You may have great ideas or bad ideas, but then what you practically do is based on practical reasons. For example, maybe an example can be that for someone the belief is that he should not tell lies. But now he's a shopkeeper and he wants to sell his good, and then he has to make money in order to pay for the bills, for the rent, etc. So he has to make money, and therefore he tries to sell this product more than it costs, and therefore he tells some lies. He has practical reasons for telling lie. If you ask him why you told lie, he says, I have to pay this bill, I have to give rent, I have to pay for my electricity, etc. These are practical reasons, but his own belief is that he shouldn't tell lies. So this is a way to separate between both between two aspects, theoretical and practical. But I believe we cannot disassociate practical reasoning from theoretical reasoning. So we need to believe that something is good, something is positive, something is helping us in reaching our aims and ideals. And then if we have some beliefs and then we are coming to a tasdeeq, to a recognition that this is useful, then we would be motivated because we have interest for our own progress, for our own rise towards our aims. So my understanding is that we should pay attention to both theoretical aspect and practical aspect, or to both aql and emotions. End of the story is here. Aql, reason, has a role. Emotions also have a role. In the good situation, aql should be behind emotions. Aql should lead to developing positive or negative emotions. If it is not that good, at least aql should control our emotions. If aql does not initiate them in the first place, aql has to control them. So for example, I know that something is good for me. I know that through my aql. Then I should start loving it. But not everyone is like this, that if they know something is good, they start loving it. If they know something is bad, they start disliking it. Many people, they have their likes and dislikes, and they have their aql. Aql has not caused them, has not brought them into existence. So we tell them, at least please check everything with your aql. If your emotions are in compliance with aql, don't conflict with what aql says, okay. Otherwise, don't act upon your emotions. So it means that give aql the power of veto. Aql can say, do this or don't do that. But in the best case, aql is actually making emotions, is the source for emotion. If you reach this point, you will never make mistake in your moral decisions. I mean you don't make moral mistakes. You may make mistakes based on not knowing the facts, etc., but you don't do something which is immoral, something which is ugly, because emotions come from aql. So aql and emotions are both important. In moral philosophy, inshallah, if we have time and we talk about schools, one school which is very influential in the 20th century is emotivism. Emotivists, they believe that there is no moral fact, there is no moral truth. When we say something is good or something is bad, in akhlaq I am talking. So when we say something is morally good, or means just you are expressing your emotion. For example, if I say telling truth is good, they say it means bahbah, means great, I'm happy. Even not as a statement necessarily, just expressing your satisfaction, your joy. If you say something is bad, it means in Farsi we say it's awful. So they say everything goes back to emotions. These are emotivists. They have good attention to the role of emotions, but they have not gone far to explain how these emotions take form and what should we do with them. We cannot just go after emotions. What is the role of aql? There's a problem here. On the other hand, there are people who just focus on aql, on reason, and they seem to be not paying great attention to emotions. For example, they don't explain why we follow our rational judgments. If you don't involve emotions and desires, the question arises why I should follow judgment made by aql. For example, Immanuel Kant, German philosopher, he says aql or intellect is the only thing that can motivate us, can provoke us, can trigger us. For making decision, we just need to know what reasons we have for something. Aql looks at the reasons and makes up his mind, his decision. And he says all basic moral principles apply to all intelligent, rational beings, including angels and inhabitants of Mars. If there are intelligent beings in the planet of Mars, Merrikh, or if there are angels, moral principles, basic moral principles apply to them and are necessary and obligatory for them as well, because they have aql. So for him, it's only aql and understanding what should we do which matters. According to Kant, please listen to this sentence, it's very important. عقل به تنهایی منشأ برای برانگیختن می باشد. One option to say that عقل alone is enough to be the source, the reason for being motivated. Or you have to say عقل is not the only reason, which means then akhlaq is absurd. So the only way for Kant to make sense of akhlaq is to be driven only by aql. And aql is something that you can find it even in the angels. You know, angels have no emotions. So this is very purely aqli, very rational. Maybe even if I'm not saying definitely this is opinion, but maybe a very advanced computer also can understand. If imagine if we have a very intelligent computer and we just give it the laws of logic and some data, then it can process it. But we say human beings are more than a computer that argues and goes into the data and put data together and brings something new. It's not just data, just propositions, just information, just reasoning, just logic. Human beings are more. Human beings have also desires. They have inclinations. Thomas Nagel, who is Kantian, he has something very maybe strange for you, but this is an implication of the Kantian approach. He says our main desires, for example, desire for food when we are hungry, desire for water when we are thirsty, they have no role except to act as just data for aql. One data that aql should consider is that I am hungry. Very dry, very impersonal, very general. I am hungry. Like, if I was going to have chance to talk to him, to say, then okay, I am hungry and someone else is hungry, have the same impact on me? As a data, they are the same. If someone else is hungry, then I have food. Okay, aql says give to that person. If I am hungry and I have food, aql says you should eat. But you don't believe that when you are yourself hungry, there is lots of pressure on aql to make this decision, and sometimes even, for example, maybe you eat something that is not good for you. But when someone else is hungry, then you say, okay, to give him food, I have to see, is this food okay for him? How much he has already eaten? Maybe he's hungry, but he has eaten a lot. For others, you don't have your emotions involved. And I'm not saying necessarily, but I think there's a chance that you are not considering any emotional power, and just as an observer, just think about what data you have. Okay, we have some people who are hungry, just as a data. But when you are yourself hungry, this can take all your attention and put lots of pressure on aql. I don't think they are the same. He says, we only do what we have a reason for doing it. And the role of desires is just to give us a reason. They give us some data, some information that we can use in our reasoning process. But as I said, then this means whether it's about me or others should be the same. I say it is acceptable that rational beings they have something in themselves that would motivate them. But this is not equal to saying that everything is done by aql and everything is just given to aql to process. With help of aql, we can understand that something is good for me or something is bad for me. But why should I do something which is good for me? With my aql or a reliable source, I understood that this is good for me, but why should I do it? If I don't have any system of desires and emotions that say whatever is good for you, you should go for it. Something that makes you inclined towards what is good for you, then you may ignore aql. Or aql says bad. If you don't have any system of emotions that would make you dislike and try to avoid what is bad for you, then why you should stop it? Why you should avoid this action? So we have aql, but also we have inside us desires for our good, or desires for good of other people, as I argued, or desire for things which are in themselves good, in themselves are beautiful. Okay, so we should have two systems in us. One system for collecting information and processing and producing new information, or enabling us to evaluate the situation, the good situation, bad situation, this is useful, this is not useful, is all theoretical. But there must be another system in us which is giving us desires for action, and these two work together. What aql can do is to give us a chain of ends and means. This leads to this, this leads to this, and finally you reach your ultimate end. Or from the other way, if you want that ultimate end, you should bring this, and then you should bring this, you should bring this, till you know all the steps that you have to take. But aql, this is the core of point. If you want to disagree with me, you can disagree also here. Aql alone cannot tell me what type of ideals I should have. Aql can tell me that for this ideal that you have chosen, this is the way, and these things must be avoided. For that ideal, if you were going to choose, this is the way. For example, if your ideal is nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these things help and you should bring them. These things hurt and you should avoid them. But why I should choose nearness to Allah as my ideal? I think aql here is not enough. There seems to be a need for a yearning, a ishtiyaq, a kind of desire in me for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I didn't have any desire for that, and I was just empty from desires and inclinations, aql could not tell me that you should go for this ideal or that ideal. Aql can give me lots of help. Aql can say, for example, this ideal has these implications, that has those implications, but in the end of the day, I have to present them to my heart and see whether my heart wants these or those. Am I inclined towards this or that? Which one is going to make me happy? Which one is going to make me satisfied? This is my understanding. So I think this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not put in fitrah only some kind of knowledge and understanding. In human fitrah, we have some things which are a matter of knowledge, and we have also something which is a matter of desire and yearning. Both are there. Desire for God, yearning for God is also fitri, not just we have some innate knowledge of God. Or, as I said, I think last week, Allah has helped us to have knowledge of what is right, what is wrong. وَنَفْسَ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. So He inspired us to understand what is right, what is wrong. But in addition to that, He has made those things which are morally right dear to us. Like حَبَّبَ إِلَيْكُمُ الْإِيمَانِ وَزَيَّنَهُ فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ. You can program a robot, an intelligent computer, or anything like that, and can tell you this is right, this is wrong. This exists, this doesn't exist. But this doesn't motivate that robot or intelligent, very intelligent computer to go for good choices. There's no desire. Human beings have desires also. So, whenever we find an action to be good for us, suitable or useful for us, we develop interests and desires for that. So this is there. So we have a treasure of desiring things which are good for us. Or in my theory, we have a treasure of desire for good things, whether it's for us or not. We don't need to create desire in us. Because if we were going to create desire for us, then we had to desire creating desire, and then we had to desire creating that desire for creating desire. It becomes endless. We have a treasure of desires. What is important is you have to regulate these desires. Maybe you say, for example, there's a student who doesn't have desire for a study. He wants to play. He has desire for playing, not desire for a study. He has to create desire for a study in himself. Maybe you say like this, as a counter-example. So you said, we don't need to create desires, but we have a student who doesn't want to study. We need to talk to him to create desire for a study. But I say no. You cannot create in him, and he cannot create himself in himself desire for a study. Yes, there are desires which are already there hanging around, or they are misguided. You have to use those desires and fix them in the way that they belong to a study. Okay, so you are not creating a new type of desire, which is desire for a study. Actually, we don't have desire for a study as such. Yes, we have desire for knowledge, but not desire for a study. But we say, okay, if you want knowledge, you have to study, then desire belongs to that as well. Because when you love an end, if you desire an end, then you desire the means for reaching that end. For this reason, I have tried to explain different types of desires. So maybe we can say desires are three levels and three types, but these types are hierarchical. When we go from the first to the second and then to the third, it becomes more abstract or more transcendent or more spiritual, more human. The first type of desires is what we can say they are physical or corporeal, or they are hissi, means something that through your senses, sensual, for example, desires. Of course, sensual has another meaning, but I mean something related to your senses. Normally, these are desires that if we satisfy, we feel pleasure in certain part of our body. Although understanding pleasure and pain is for the soul or a spirit, we know that. Idrakul ladha is not by body or by brain. Idrak is mujarrad, and mudrik has to be mujarrad. Any kind of idrak is by soul, by spirit. But in the same way that when you see, when you see, lots of things happen in your eyes, in the nervous system, in your brain, but at the end, idrak of what you see is by soul, by spirit. Here also, when I smell a rose flower, the one that really and ultimately understands this pleasure of smelling fragrance of rose is my spirit, my soul. But my nose has a very important role. And also it seems that although that pleasure is for the soul, but nose is very important in the sense that it seems that as if first of all your nose is enjoying this, or when you listen to a beautiful voice, your ear is enjoying, or when you touch something which is very soft, your skin is enjoying more than other organs. So I said physical desires have a special relation with specific part of body and are also triggered or in touch or in relation with also something physical which can be outside us. Outside us, I mean outside my soul, which includes my body, because my body is outside also. Yeah, so I can, for example, touch my skin, and when it is soft, enjoy, or when it is not soft, I can, for example, don't enjoy. I don't enjoy. So here my body is external. Yeah, because body is not part of the soul. Body is connected, but it's not part of it. So there is a special connection between part of our body with something physical which is outside, and I said it can include even your own body. So These type of pleasures are results of a kind of touch or encounter between part of our body and something external, something physical. Like the pleasure we get when we eat some food which is delicious, or smell flower which has good fragrance. But because the one that really understands this is the soul, therefore a person may have this physical touch or encounter but be busy with something else and would not notice. Yeah, it's possible. Maybe there are lots of beautiful flowers here. I don't enjoy looking at them. I don't enjoy smelling. Why? Because I'm so much thinking about something else. All the things that should happen in the nose, in eyes, in the brain are taking place. My body is functioning, but my soul is not there to benefit from these things that happen in my body and make the final stage of this process. So, pleasure is something above physical process. The second type of desires is what I have called semi-abstract, and this is middle between first one and the third one, which is abstract ones. Semi-abstract, you can find better names perhaps for it. You can suggest other names. What I mean is something that is not like the first, but still is not very immaterial, very abstract. And these normally are more enduring than the first one. First ones normally don't stay too long. You know, when you eat a delicious food, how long you have the desire satisfied, how much you are, getting pleasure. You eat it in 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, then finishes. Yes, you may have a memory of that pleasure, but the pleasure stops. The desire is no longer being satisfied. So this one is more enduring. Like what? Like when you want money, desire for money or power or position or fame, these are not directly caused by any part of our body. And the pleasure is also not felt and experienced by any part of body. You don't enjoy money because, for example, if you have these notes, smell nice. Sometimes there is no smell. Yes, sometimes the new notes you smell and maybe you like it. Like children who get a gift as ED, and they give them new notes because there's beautiful also fragrance. But normally we don't even bring them close to our nose to smell them. We have no interest in their smell, or maybe they have no smell. Why we like these notes? Not because they are very beautiful, or they are very soft, or they are giving us good fragrance. No. Because with this I can get things that can give me those types of pleasure. With this money I can buy food which is delicious. I can buy perfume which has great smell. I can buy clothes which is very soft. So these types of things give us pleasure, and we may think we are getting pleasure directly from them, but indeed we are not getting pleasure directly from them. We get pleasure from them because they help us to satisfy some other desires and get pleasure from satisfaction of those desires. And therefore I have mentioned this example. I said, imagine if you have lots of money, even in your hands, but you don't have the right to spend them. No one is selling you anything. No one is, accepting any transaction with you. You have just the money, but you cannot use it. Are you going to enjoy it? You are not going to enjoy it. Or someone who is very interested in fame. Imagine you have become a famous artist, a famous writer, very famous. But if you live in a society that they don't know you, yes, in the whole world they know you, you have lots of people who know you. But if you are surrounded and in touch with people, you have no online or virtual connection with others who know you. You have no physical encounter with those who know you. You are just fully in touch with the people who don't know you. You have millions of followers or lovers or fans, but here you cannot benefit from anything coming from your fans or your fame. Okay, does this then give you satisfaction? We love fame because somehow we can cash this fame. The fame, we can cash it. For example, people respect me more. People give me priority. I don't know, people give me money. People, listen to me. People help me. Sometimes it gives you security. In some countries, if you are famous, then they are more careful about the way they treat you. So, for different reasons, we love fame. But fame, if it is not able to be cashed in other things that we really want them, fame is useless. And sometimes people make mistake and think you are a very famous person. They think you are, for example, that celebrity. And they give you a special treatment and you enjoy and get pleasure. But you are not famous. So you may be famous and not get pleasure, and you may not be famous and get pleasure. So it shows that fame as such is not important, like money as such, position as such. They're not important. It's because of what we can do afterwards. So in semi-abstract desires, it seems that our pleasure comes from ability. Money enables you, fame enables you, power enables you. So our pleasure comes from ability to do what we want, to eat what we want, to travel, to touch, to smell. So to do things that they give us pleasure. What type of pleasures? They may give you physical pleasure, that's first type, or maybe they give you the third type of pleasure. They may give you abstract pleasure. Maybe with this money, you help people and you get abstract, immaterial pleasure. So let's go to the third one. abstract desires. Here, the pleasure is also abstract. So male is desire is abstract, pleasure is abstract. For example, when you have tranquility, when you have a sense of satisfaction, for example, you are satisfied with your performance in an exam, or I don't know, in a family affair, in a community affair, you did something great and you are satisfied. Or you have understood something, you learned something. So here we are talking about those types of pleasures which I call them, they are genuine. And I mean by genuine two things together. To be real and to be basic. If they are not real, so it's fake. If it's real, but it can be reduced to something which is more underlying, then that one is genuine. So, if any desire is basic and real, I call it genuine. Means this is the most fundamental. So, I believe we have some genuine desires in us which are not for getting physical pleasure or semi-abstract pleasure. It's for getting abstract pleasure. In order to explain how something can be reduced to something else, so you have to be careful and find out the more underlying things. I said, for example, if someone is thirsty and then there is a cup of lemonade, very cold lemonade, and you are thirsty, hot water, so you develop desire for drinking that lemonade. But is this desire for that cold lemonade basic desire? No. For you, this lemonade as such is not important. You have desire for a drink. Now the drink which is available is lemonade, but lemonade as such is not desired. It's not that in human beings we have basic desire for lemonade. And then this desire can only be satisfied if we had the basic desire for lemonade only by drinking lemonade. If you are not thirsty, and if you are thirsty and have other drinks, you don't feel satisfied. You feel depressed and deprived because there was a genuine desire for lemonade. No, it's not like that. We want something to quench our thirst. So it's possible that sometimes we have desire, but this desire has originated from something else. So if someone is a seeker of knowledge, seeker of truth, when finds out a piece of truth, is very happy. Like it seems that in Adab al-Muta'allamin says Muhammad ibn al-Hasan, so perhaps is referring to, I don't know, Sheikh Tusi or someone else, that in the middle of the night, Khaja himself, in the middle of the night when he was studying and finding something nice, learning something that was puzzling him, he was so happy and saying, مال الملوك وأبناء الملوك من هذه اللذة. How can kings and children of kings understand the pleasure of someone like me that has been able to solve, for example, a scientific issue, to find out something new? Okay. This pleasure that you get from learning something or finding a piece of truth is not necessarily for money or fame or position. Yes, some people learn in order to get a good job, and then through that job they can get good money, and then they can buy food and enjoy that food. So enjoying food, enjoying drink, enjoying comfort is translated into what? Pleasure from a study. But this is not really pleasure from a study. But the person that I mentioned, someone that in the middle of night is studying, reflecting, and then finding out something, or a scientist in laboratory that for years was looking for a medicine and finds out then a medicine that works, sometimes it can be really for the sake of desire for learning, desire for knowledge, desire for truth. They have curiosity, and this curiosity is now answered, is dealt with properly. So if desire for a study, for learning, for research is because of money, etc., it's not abstract. But if it is for itself, then it is abstract, and it is very fundamental and genuine. My reflections led me to this point that I want to share with you. And I remember when after I finished my PhD and came back to Iran, once some of the brothers came to our home and they asked me about, what did you do for your study and my PhD, etc. One of the points I mentioned about my ideas in my thesis was this one that I'm going to share with you. And some of them had difficulty in accepting this. So sometimes when I say, people don't find it agreeable to them. But in the end, I think you should accept. And I think this is actually a very good point of understanding the way Allah creates. But I'm happy to discuss. If you have other positions or arguments, we can discuss. So I say that in human beings, in my humble opinion, we don't have any genuine desire for something which is bad, morally bad. We don't have any genuine desire, means something which is real and basic. There is no basic and real desire in us for bad things. It's our mismanagement of our desires that lead to developing desire for bad things. I don't say we don't have desire for bad things. Yes, we desire bad things. But I'm saying we don't have basic, real desires for bad things. It's just mismanagement. We only have desire for good things or neutral things. Those things that we desire, either they are neutral, like desire for food, desire for water or drink, etc., or they are moral, like desire for knowledge, desire for love, desire for kindness, desire for beauty. We don't have desire which is by default just for bad things. When I say this, then some people say, what about hubbu shahawat? Then I say, yes, we have hubbu shahawat, but this is not my point. I'm not saying we don't have hubbu shahawat. People can even reach the point that they enjoy, na'udhu billah, God forbid, torturing people. People can sometimes enjoy telling lies. I don't say we don't have such things. Or for example, someone steals money and then buys food and enjoys this food which is stolen. I'm not saying we don't have such desires. I'm saying these are not basic and real desires. In other words, what I say is that, and this is something that then some people appreciate, then they say yes. I say there is no basic desire in us for bad things, so that if you have a moral life, you feel unsatisfied. Because if there is something genuine in us, unless we satisfy and meet that desire, we feel unhappy. And you may even develop some, complex. Uqde. Yeah? But in us, there is no desire for bad things, so that a person who is moral or pious would feel that I am partly satisfied and partly not satisfied. Then they become depressed, for example, or they become, sad, deeply sad, etc., because there are desires that they didn't satisfy. No. We don't have any desire for bad things or vicious things. But we combine desires, or let them combine in the way that they then can belong to bad things. So I said it is up to us to direct our desires to virtuous acts or vicious acts. For example, when we are hungry and have desire for food, what is basic desire in us is desire for food. Because if we don't eat, we die. We have to eat. And therefore, in our being, there is this system that whatever we need, we have desire for it. And also, as a reward, when you meet your desire for what you need, you get pleasure. It's the beautiful system. But instead of getting pleasure from meeting what you need, then we sometimes cheat. We just want the pleasure, and we do things to get pleasure instead of thinking about what I need. Then getting more pleasure becomes a false need, and then we just go after satisfying ourselves, and there is no end here. It's a problem. We shouldn't do things just to get pleasure. We should do things which are needed, which are right, and then pleasure is a reward. So here what we have desire for is desire for food, because we have desire for our continued life. Inshallah, we'll talk about this, because I believe we have two things which are very fundamental. I'm not saying the only ones, but I think there are two things which are very fundamental for us. One is quantity of life, and one is quality of life. We want our life to be continued by nature. We have this default. Every human being wants to continue. And also, we want to have better quality of life. And that is by bringing benefits and avoiding harms. So, my desire for continued life or extended life, and also for better quality of life, because if I don't eat, I become very weak and etc., says, okay, you have to eat. But how should I eat? What should I eat? How much I should eat? Then these are the things which are not in that basic desire. If I am a lazy person, I say just steal money and buy food, or steal the food, even though that takes time to steal money and buy the food. Just steal the food, for example, if I'm a lazy person. Or, for example, eat too much so that you can get more pleasure from eating delicious food. Or, for example, we have desire for sex, for marital relation. But if I say sex, maybe is more accurate. But this desire for sex doesn't need to be answered through fornication or adultery. It can be satisfied through marriage. You may say people feel desire for fornication, or people feel desire for having sex with someone who is not married to them. Yes, I know. They may have desire for a food which doesn't belong to them. But it's not that Allah has put in us desire for bad things. First of all, there is no desire for a specific individuals. And this person is a specific person. It has happened that it's now, for example, has come to your sight. You see that person. And it has happened that it's not married to you. And still you have desire. But desire was not for this specific person with the condition that is not married to you. So, there is a general desire for sexual relation with the opposite sex, and this in itself is good, because this is the way for human generation to continue. And this has also other benefits. جَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً, because for us it's not just reproduction. For us, marriage has lots of other aspects, spiritual aspects. But with mismanagement, someone, instead of marrying, may do adultery or fornication, or may look at na-mahram, or may read magazines that are full of pornography, etc. Allah has not put us desire for these bad things. Our desire was neutral. So sometimes desires are neutral, sometimes desires by default are for good things, like desire for knowledge, for beauty. So it's up to us to be careful and organize all our desires according to our ideals, with the help of aql. This is my point. Then I said, maybe someone says this is perhaps different from what Saint Augustine in his Confessions said. So, as a counterexample. Because he says that when he was very young, then they had pears, fruit, gulabi, in their own house or garden. But with his friends, they used to steal from gardens of others. He says we had adequately and even better ones in our own garden. But we had temptation, more temptation, for stealing pears of our neighbors and eat them. He says this pleasure was from theft and sin. So in his confessions, he says this, that he says, unfortunately, we were getting pleasure from theft, not from the fruit itself. We had many of them and better ones. Our pleasure was coming from theft and sinning. So someone may mention this as a counterexample, but I say no. Actually, this is something which is understandable. We say al-insan harisun ala ma muna'. People become more greedy when they are prohibited. Sometimes it's like that. When you are prohibited, you may think, oh, this must be something very important, something very special. And now why I cannot, maybe if it was not prohibited, you were not doing it. Or maybe it was not applicable to you. But now that's prohibited, you want to go and try it, for example. The greediness here. But I said, if we analyze this, we realize that the young Augustine didn't have a basic, a genuine desire for theft. Why he didn't steal other things? I think with his young friends, they were after something that can give them some excitement. Like people who take, adventurous, missions, undertake, such things, because this gives them excitement. People love to be excited. Even sometimes people do frightening things. They become very fearful. But then because afterwards they get good pleasure of excitement, they are happy. Some of the games, some of the movies are very frightening, but still they want to watch it, they want to do it. Why? Because they need excitement. This is one way of getting satisfied. So if you go and pick up apple from your own garden, okay, you just enjoy apple. Or you enjoy, for example, apple and this is our own garden, my father has planted this. But if you manage to secretly go to someone else's garden with your friends and manage to rob some apples and then go and secretly eat, you may think, oh, this is very important because it's exciting. We managed to secretly go, no one could catch us, then we ran away, etc. So it's not just apple or pear, it's combination of other things that instead of being able to satisfy them in a moral way, you rushed and wanted to satisfy with this theft. So this is my understanding. Sometimes also people want to be free. يريد الإنسان ليفجر أمامه. They don't want anyone to tell them not to do this or do this, to dictate. So they do sometimes crimes just to prove that I am free. Okay, you are free and you should be free, but use it properly. Why you need to prove your freedom by doing illegal things. Like a teenager who is not experienced and patient wants to prove himself by disobeying parents and creating chaos at home because he wants to be independent. These are things that when you are not experienced, when you are not patient, when you are not wise, sometimes you make such mistakes. There is also a psychological disorder. It's called kleptomania. So people who suffer this kind of disorder, it is said that sometimes they commit theft without having any need. They are maybe very rich, or maybe they steal something which has no financial value, but they enjoy stealing. And what they do is later also they just hide it somewhere or give it to others. They don't need, they don't use, they don't enjoy this object. They just enjoy stealing. Sometimes even they secretly go and put it back. I managed to steal this, no one realized, then I put it back, no one realizes. So they say this is a counterexample. So these people seems to have desire just for theft. I say no. Actually it's a disorder. We are not talking about disorders. Sometimes even people may hate themselves. This doesn't mean that every human being hates himself or herself. We have both that. It's a disorder. Plus, this shows that human beings don't have desire for theft itself. These people who have this kind of disorder, again, they don't want just to do theft. They want to show their competence. So they want to show that we are able to do something. Or maybe because of this order, there are some impulses in them that trigger them for doing this, and they are not able to resist against it. Something comes to their mind and then they do it. They are not able to resist against the pressure from inside. Sometimes also those things which are stolen can have some symbolic meaning for that person. Maybe they are, for example, related to sex or other things that for this person they have a special meaning. In any case, this would not contradict with our theory. If you want to refute this theory, I said that you should show that there is a genuine, means real and basic desire in us that can only be satisfied with immoral things. Not things that are done by mistake, not things which are done by mismanagement. No, show me something in human beings that only crimes can satisfy, only sins can satisfy. Show me this. Then, as an example, I mention how desires can be combined. For example, desire for freedom. It seems in human beings there is such desire for freedom. It's very important. We want to be free. Desire for comfort seems also to be there in human beings. And by the way, these are by themselves not bad. It's very good actually to have these desires. If we didn't have desire for freedom, then we would become slaves for people. In the book Insan Kamil, Ayatollah Mutari explains that Allah is different because our servitude to Allah would grow us. But apart from Allah, we should not be a slave of anyone else. As Amir al-Mu'minin said, لا تكن عبد غيرك قد جعلك الله حرا. Allah would not limit my freedom. So, desire for freedom, desire for comfort, for rest, desire for excitement. These desires are there. I accept them as things that can be candidates for genuine desires. But then, how you mix these with each other and other desires is very important. You have to be very careful. So, first, desire for freedom. I said it seems there is no doubt about this, that there is such a thing. You want to do things as you wish. And I said maybe children and teenagers are good examples to demonstrate this. But generally all human beings, as I said, al-insan harisun ala ma mun'a. Sometimes you have seen that if we want a child to do something, some parents or some adults, they tell them the opposite. For example, if they want them to eat, and the child, if they say eat, he doesn't eat. So they say don't eat, then they eat. So sometimes it's like this. Or you take the food away and they say no, give it to me, I want to eat. So this is because of this desire that we have for freedom. But when they have no enough information or experience, etc., they want to use their freedom in order to deprive themselves from food. This is wrong. Or deprive themselves from other things which are needed for them. Sometimes people do things that even they themselves don't like. But unfortunately, just they rush to satisfy this desire. Even Na'uzubillah, sometimes, maybe shouting at their parents, for example, I don't know, committing crime, just to prove that they are free. So I said, desire for freedom by itself doesn't lead to violating laws and regulations. You can really appreciate and act upon this desire and remain moral. Actually, being moral gives you more chance to enjoy this. A person who satisfies desire with theft then ends up with being in prison. How much he can then enjoy his freedom? But if you are a law-abiding person, then you can enjoy your freedom for tens of years. Like a driver who drives carelessly, gets into problem, police takes away his driving license, another driver observes the regulations and then for years can drive. Which one has better enjoyed his freedom? So there is no desire for freedom in the sense of desire for illegal things, desire for violating laws. No, just desire for freedom. It's up to you how you want to answer to this. You want to rush, or you want to find a nice, wise way of satisfying this. Or desire for comfort is there. We try to do things with least of efforts, which in itself is not bad, it's good. Many of things human beings have created was because of this, that they want to reduce the pressure, the efforts. This by itself is good. But if then someone misuses this and says, okay, instead of working 8 hours every day, and for example 5 days a week, 40 hours per week, I make one theft every week and it's enough for the whole week, for example. Okay, this is misuse of desire for comfort. And this person actually then may have some comfort, but not then psychological comfort. Or maybe arrested and not even have physical comfort. Then I said, if we go to abstract desires, it seems to me that all our abstract desires are human and therefore moral. This is also another beautiful point. Anything which is human means is exclusive to human beings. Yeah, حقيقة الشيء بفصله الأخير. We had this in self-knowledge. It is also in Akhlaq of Jose in London. We discussed this. That whatever is exclusive to any type of being, that is what makes its identity, its reality. حقيقة الشيء, the reality of everything, is based on the last differential, فصله الأخير. So for example, for us, we are حيوان ناطق. We are animals who also think. But to be animal doesn't make us human beings, because horses are also animals. Elephants are also animals. What makes us human beings is ناطقية, to be able to think. So anything that we share with animals is not human as such. They are not bad. It's up to us how to use them. But anything that is exclusive to human beings is also good. My idea is that anything exclusive to human being is good. What are exclusive to human beings? Are those things that are in our fitrah. We mentioned already examples: desire for knowledge, desire for loving and being loved, desire for beauty, desire for connection and belonging to absolute perfection, which is desire for worship. So these desires are only in human beings, not in animals, and they are very good. So when you satisfy a desire which is shared by animals, you have to find a good reason for it, because it's neutral. You can make eating or drinking moral or immoral based on what you add to eating and drinking, because eating and drinking is just a physical action. Why you eat or drink, it can make it moral, it can make it immoral, it can make it neutral. If you just eat without any moral consideration, it's neutral. But if it's going to lead to some bad or good results, for example, if you eat just too much, that's immoral. Or if you eat for gaining energy to do something good, then it's moral. But for exclusively human desires, I think all of them are moral. You can make it immoral. Yes, they are moral in themselves, but you can make it immoral. For example, if you go for knowledge, this by itself is good. But if you go for knowledge to learn how to cheat, then this is bad. So there are things which in themselves are good, you can make them bad. There are things in themselves are neutral. If you remember, again, we had this discussion in Jose Akhlaq that Sheikh Muzaffar says certain actions are illat tamme, are complete cause for husn qub, some are muqtadi for husn qub, some are neutral, means some are complete cause, like husnul adl or qubhul dhulm, goodness of justice, badness of injustice are fixed, cannot be changed, because illat tamme. Adl is illat tamme for goodness. But husnul sidq, وَقُبْحُ الْكِذْبِ is مُقْتَدِي, means صدق left to itself is good, but sometimes there is an overriding factor. This صدق can endanger an innocent life. So it changes then, because صدق is not complete cause. صدق is مقتدي. But eating, drinking, walking, neither it's علة تامة nor is مقتضي. It is something neutral, and you have to give moral reason so that it becomes good or bad. So those things which are abstract desires in human beings, I think they are all good, but they can be changed. So it's not علة تامة necessarily. It can be مقتضي or علة تامة. But those which are in animals as well, then they can be neutral. We have to make it moral. Okay, I think for today this is enough, and inshallah we talk more about our desires and the rest of process of decision making in the next session, inshallah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Do you have any question?
Yes.
Yes.
It's about your idea about all desires are good desires, and basically I want to know that this idea is backed and supported by any narrations or verses in the Quran or not.
I think actually this is something that you can find lots of evidence for it. It's not expressed like this, but I think this is the only way, a monotheistic approach to creation can be understood. How can Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create human beings and put in them desires that only through immoral things can be satisfied? And how can then insan kamil be a moral person if some of his desires, which are human desires, are not satisfied? So the fact that for us human being has a spirit which Allah, it says nafakhtu fihi min ruhi, so this ruhi cannot involve things which are vicious. So you can bring evidence for this, but I don't think of, at least right now, I don't remember of, for example, a sentence which exactly says this. But I think we can bring lots of evidence to support this. And also, if you have any counter argument, also we can discuss. If you have anything to say that no, human beings have desire for vicious things, we can discuss.
So about nafs al-ammara, so it's we have both nafs.
Yeah, but even nafs ammara is not necessary. Yeah, it's not that it's part of creation of human beings and you have to have nafs ammara. This is a stage that when you have not put harmony and peace inside yourself, then you would have temptations towards bad things. But this can be fixed. If we say this is part of creation of human beings, that Allah has put in them desires for good things and desire for bad things, then you can never get rid of it. I think this is very simplistic way that people say Allah has put in us desire for good things and desire for bad things. I don't accept this. Yes, we have shahawat, but shahawat is different from desire for bad things. we have no basic desire for bad things. But we may desire bad things. It's different, from. So we desire bad things many times and badly, but we are not given basic desires for bad things. This is my idea. It just happens that when we are not careful, then we find our satisfaction in wrong places.
Why nafs al-ammara is not something which is our fundamental of our nafs? I mean, it's not.
Because then there are many human beings who don't have nafs ammara. Rasulullah قل إنما أنا بشر مثلكم. Did he have nafs ammara? He was bashar, he was a human being, but he didn't have nafs ammara. If you say nafs ammara is part of being human, then those who don't have nafs ammara, they are not human beings. But we say they are human beings. So this means that this is something that is arazi, not zati. It's not essential for human beings to have nafs ammara. This is accidental.
Thank you so much.
Ahsantum. Thank you for the good question. Please think about it, do mubahasa study, because we want to, inshallah, develop these ideas further, and inshallah we benefit from your input as well, inshallah. Is there any question?
Can I ask a question?
Yes?
Can I ask one?
Yes. May Allah bless you.
I'm sorry, how come do you say Rasulullah did not have nafs ammara? He probably had, but...
Because إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي. So إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي. Rasulullah was rahmatun lil alamin. So he had nafs ammara? It's impossible.
Okay, maybe we only have one nafs, but it can do different things. Okay,
No, so what I say is that
nafs did not
human soul doesn't need to be nafs ammara. Everyone says this. You can have nafs al-lawwama, you can have nafs mutmain. So it's not that every person has nafs ammara.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
But one more thing. I mean, when you do something bad, you actually find it good to do that, something bad. So it stops being bad. So it's not actually bad enough to be avoided. It's good enough to be done. I mean, it's no longer bad.
No, it's good for you, but it is bad in itself. You don't do anything unless you think it's good for you.
Yeah.
But you have to be careful. Good for you is sometimes a confusion. There cannot be anything which is good, bad in itself and is good for you. It's a confusion. It's a confusion. For example, a person says, if I don't observe, for example, rights of people, it's good for me. I can make lots of money by, taking rights of people, cheating, etc. It's good for me, and they will do it. If they don't say this is good for me, they don't do it. They say good for me, but it's mistake. It's not in the long term good for you. It's not really good for you. It's just good for one aspect of you, but not for you as a human being entirely. Yes, so confusion is there.
Yeah, one may be wrong in deciding what is good and what is bad for them, but if that he or she does something means that he actually found it good to do that, probably wrongly. Is that correct?
What do you mean probably right? Means he said it is wrong and I do it?
No. He said it is good, but actually he might be wrong.
Of course.
Yeah. And then again, I think that one does not get, about that, I don't know, proverb, what is it? Al-insan harisun ala ma manaa. I don't think it's true as a rule. I mean, one does not get greedy when prohibited as a general rule. You don't long, for example, you don't long for drinking poison because you prohibit it. I think people get greedy only if you flash something about, like an advert. You advertise something and then prohibit it.
No, this is not a rule or a principle. This is something which has some truth, but it's not illat tam. This is something that has some truth, and we don't want to say in all cases. Even rules which are general, we say ma min amman illa waqad khus. Unless they are philosophical rules, then they have no exceptions. But this is not a rule. This is just a point which is good, but not in 100% of cases. Means there is some truth in it, that sometimes people, when they see there is a limit, they become haris. For example, imagine as soon as people hear that there might be shortage in food or shortage in, I don't know, bread, they buy more. At the time of, beginning of pandemic, when, there was going to be some shortage, about, for example, I don't know, soap, etc. In many countries, people were buying some people, not everyone, lots of soaps for maybe more than a year. This is true that there is such phenomenon in human beings, that they may, not necessarily, but they may become more inclined towards doing something when they feel someone wants to stop them, or in future they cannot do it. For example, if I tell you that next month you cannot travel to, for example, certain city, say, oh, let me now go. Maybe if I had not told you, you would not have, gone there. But now that I said there is going to be restriction, you say, let me not do it before there is restriction. This is there, but it's not for all people. For wise people, it doesn't make difference. They have always a good reason for doing something. Whether it's prohibited or not, it's not going to make them interested. For wise people. But some people, yes, it merely affects them.
But I think the reason you buy more when there will be a shortage is not the reason is not that shortage. The reason is a need that you previously have. You know that you will need that because your body needs something to eat.
But they buy more. Sometimes they buy so much that then they throw it in the bin.
You buy more because you know that you will need more.
No.
It's not because
no. If they buy what they need is fine, but sometimes they just become greedy. So if they want to, if they spend for example, if they need, I remember there was a time that salt was not very much available. Can you imagine salt? And then some people, not many, buying salt for years. How much salt you use? And it is not going to, be something which is, not available for a long time. But greediness, you cannot deny that human beings can become greedy. But the thing is that it's not something which is not possible to avoid. It is possible to avoid. But there is such an element, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not denying that people can get greedy, but I'm talking about the cause. If you prevent me from going to, I don't know, Sao Paulo, I'm not getting greedy to go there because I were not going there anyway. I mean, if you do prevent me or if you do not prevent me, either way, I'm not going there.
Yeah, that's not applicable.
But if you prevent me from going to my home city, yes, I do get greedy because I had a need to go there beforehand. that was not because
No,
you
I am
want
saying,
health.
no, my example was that suppose you were not going to go there.
Okay, I'm not going to go to Sao Paulo.
No,
Now you
no.
prevent me to go there.
No,
I'm
Sao
not
Paulo,
going to go there.
it's not applicable to you, and no one is going to prohibit you from doing something that you are not never going to do it. No one is mad.
I get maybe
No one is mad to prohibit someone from doing what they are not going to do anyway. No, something that you may do and may not do, and if you had not heard anything, you are not going to do. But just thinking that there may be a restriction makes you think many times, let me go.
they should be
Because maybe
a
then,
desire.
pardon?
They should be a desire beforehand. It's not because of that prevention. It should be applicable to me. I mean,
Of
there
course.
should be a pre-desire in me to go to my hometown or elsewhere. Then you prevent me, then I get ready to go there.
Yeah, but the question is, hers is that you have a desire, but this desire is now intensified. Okay? Greediness means intensified desire, and then one thing that can intensify desire is just to be prohibited. This can intensify your desire. Not necessarily, but there is such a thing because we don't want to be restricted. I may be in this room can be for many hours, but if you tell me you cannot go out of this room, from now I start suffering.
No, I don't think it's like that.
Okay?
Okay, but I may need to think more about that. Okay.
Inshallah.
And one last chance about the child example. I mean, the child that says yes when you prohibit something from him and says no when you command him to do something. I don't think. It's the reaction is not based on al-insan haris ala ma munah. It's more probably because a child has the golden rule internalized by a sense. He thinks or she thinks, the child thinks by themselves, if it is good for you, why is it bad for me? And if it's bad for me, it's bad for anyone else too. So the child asks to have something if the parent has it.
Yeah, the parents have their food. They eat their food, they finish their food, the child has not eaten.
Now, if they prevent the child from eating some food, the child may say, I want to eat that because the parent has it and the child does not.
No, initially he doesn't eat. So we have spent half an hour on the table, we eat, he doesn't eat. We say eat, he doesn't eat. Then we say, we change our policy. Next day we say don't eat. Then he starts eating. This happens. I'm not saying it's necessary, but it happens. Many times children with this, they start eating. And they have seen parents eating or their brothers, sisters eating, but they don't want to eat. Okay, inshallah. Yes.
Okay.
Inshallah.
The child wants to choose. The child feels that if you have a choice to eat or not to eat, I should have also my choice.
Okay, but why then he changes? He was insisting on not eating. Now that you say eat, then he says I don't want to eat.
Because the child does not want to accept an order. He wants to choose by.
So this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. So I say one reason for people is just they don't want to listen. They don't want to be obedient.
Yeah,
they want to be free.
It's not based on al-insan harisun ala ma munah.
No, it's harisun ala ma munah. It was example for what I was saying, that people want to be free. And anything that is limiting their freedom in their opinion, like prohibition or whatever, they want to resist.
Yeah, you're right.
You're welcome. I think next week we don't have class, yeah?